Steven Spielberg returns to the summer blockbuster format that he helped create with his newest film, Disclosure Day, and I want to discuss it. So, hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Gold, and I make daily short form stuff about all my nerdy passions. So, make sure you like and subscribe so that you can see that, and so that I can keep making longer form stuff like this. So, I want to say up front, I really enjoyed this film. It is a fun conspiracy thriller. I think if you like UFO mythology, if you like Steven Spielberg, you are going to have a great time. I think Josh O'Connor, Emily Blunt, Coleman Domingo, Colin Firth all give great performances throughout this whole film. I think Steven Spielberg and David Koepp have a greatly paced film in terms of like how much character work versus the mystery of the plot that we're getting, how they divide that up throughout the film and keep you guessing on what's going to happen next. I think all of that really works very well. Steven Spielberg, obviously a master of making his shots work, building up the tension in scene to scene, and then from throughout Act 1 into Act 2, I think he does an excellent job on all of that stuff. That being said, there are some things about the film that I didn't think necessarily worked, and those are the things I want to focus on. The primary thing being the central question that the film asks, which is, will the world change if we find out that aliens are real? Now, how much dramatic tension this film has really depends on whether you think A, the world will change, or B, it won't change, because it basically comes down to those two options. Yes, there are nuances to be found in both of those options. I'm of the opinion that no, I don't think the world would change that much if the world would suddenly realize all at once that aliens were real and they have been visiting us. I've seen too many people talk jadedly online about how, oh man, my bills aren't being paid. So what, aliens? What are you going to do about that? Too many times on the internet, as I've gotten older and older, to really believe that, yeah, that's going to have a profound effect on that. And if you don't believe that, that kind of pulls away from some of the dramatic tension that the film has. Steven Spielberg grew up during a time in America where UFO mythology was growing rapidly as incidents of real UFO encounters were growing and the mystique around them. Were they happening? Is there an actual government conspiracy? Where that stuff was much stronger in the American populace, in the American psyche. Everyone always kind of believed that maybe there is a chance that they really do have bodies at Roswell. But these days, I don't know that even if the bodies are real, it's going to change that much of what people feel like needs to be changed about the world. So while I can see it being a dramatic question for people who have been growing up in an older time where they remember how strong this feeling of like the world could change if we really knew the truth, I don't feel like we live in that world anymore. And that kind of takes away some of the dramatic tension that the film really wants to build toward. That being said, even if it was true and you do think that it would change things, I don't know that the film really addresses it enough. They show that everyone is shocked, but yeah, there's that one step that I think they need to go further for it to really land on that dramatic note. The other main thing that I have a concern about with this film is that it brings up the idea of how religious order would be thrown into absolute upheaval if we found out that there were alien beings visiting us that were beyond the creation stories of any religion. Now, this movie primarily focuses on Catholicism, saying that in Genesis that God made life on earth and we are the supreme beings here. But the sister in the movie is very specific to point out it says on earth and not necessarily the rest of the universe, implying that it's possible the Catholic Church believes that, yeah, God has made other aliens and he does love them too. Maybe he's offering them different religions, but he's still the same God on that front. And I think that's an interesting premise as far as how a religion would deal with it. But at the same time, I feel like that element isn't explored enough for it to have the dramatic tension that I believe Spielberg and Koepp were going for on that. Jane and her relationship with the monastery is definitely a way of exploring it, but it doesn't amount to anything truly substantive for this film's plots or for Jane as a character. It's one of those things that has an interesting potential, but I don't think the film ever actually fully reaches the full dramatic gravitas of what it could have been in that moment. The last thing that didn't really work for me in this film is that the entire film, throughout the background, there is a world war that is about to start. It has something to do with relations between North Korea and South Korea, but beyond that, we don't really know a lot about this, other than it's going to draw in a lot of superpowers. People across the world are worried about it. They don't know what they're going to do because they think the world is ending. They don't know about this UFO conspiracy thriller that's going on in the background. That's nothing until the end of the movie. But that's kind of the problem is that this is just a background element. We as an audience are supposed to buy into the fact that everyone in this world is worried about this world war, but we never really learn enough about it to feel the dramatic stakes on it. Additionally, because it's just in the background, it has nothing to really do with the main plot or any of the character development that is going on in the film. So it feels kind of tacked on in a way that just makes it noise in the background. I really do wish that Steven Spielberg and David Koepp had found a way to tie the UFO mythology to this world war. Exactly how, I don't know, but I do wish they had found a way to tie them together. And then my final thing that I didn't necessarily think worked about this film is just in the potential of showing us more about the nature of this conspiracy. Why were these aliens crashing? What exactly was their goal on that front? What has the American government been doing with all of this? What is the footage they have? There's a lot of cool mystery that they could have pulled into that. And we just kind of got it dumped at the end of the film as we were like learning with the rest of the world what the disclosure was. I do think there's a bit of a thrill and awe into that moment in the film. But that being said, I really do wish that the archives that they were after so badly throughout the whole film had mattered a little more to the plot rather than it just being a montage at the end of the third act. I wish they had really done a little bit more with that. That being all said, I do think that Steven Spielberg has game on that front. He is still very good at what he does. This is an excellent film that you're going to enjoy. I promise, despite the problems that I'm mentioning, this is a good film. I really did have a sense of awe and wonder when I was watching. When the film wanted to elicit those feelings from me, it did deliver on. It's just one of those things that I really wish the film had been better than it was. And this, again, not to say that it was a bad movie. I really enjoyed it. But man, there's a little bit of that potential that you can see of this being just like a step better. And man, I would have loved this movie so much more if that had been true. But let me know, do you agree with my thoughts about the problems with this film, or do you think I'm just overthinking this?